December 16, some 100 demonstrators staged a rally outside the Commonwealth office in Sydney to protest the federal government's plan in tackling climate change. Australia recently announced a plan to cut its greenhouse gas emissions by as little as 5% by the year of 2020, far less than the 25% reduction sought by environmentalists. They demanded a 40% target.
Around Australia, there are meetings like this happening right now, and they will continue to happen because people like you and people like the other people around Australia will not stand for 5%, will not stand for money being handed over to the big polluters, rewarding bad behaviour, encouraging pollution. What we want is a 40% target that really drives the renewable energy industry, that really drives down Australia's greenhouse gas emissions.
Prime Minister Kevin Rudd's government said it remained committed to its election promise of slashing Australia's carbon emission by 60% from 2000 levels by 2050. But climate change policy documents released on December 15 set an interim reduction range of only 5% to 15% by 2020.
These targets are appropriate and they are responsible. They deliver necessary reform to tackle the long-term challenge of climate change while supporting our economy and securing jobs during this global recession. By the end of 2020, we will reduce Australia's carbon pollution by between 5% and 15% below 2000 levels.
Australia is one of the world's driest inhabited continents and is expected to be the developed country hardest hit by the effects of global warming. Research released by the Australian government last year predicts that parts of the country could be 5 degrees Celsius hotter than 80% drier by 2070 if global greenhouse gas emissions are not radically reduced. The current greenhouse gas reduction goals fall far below environmentalist expectations, but Rudd explains that he wants to make promises he can't keep.
We are not going to make promises that cannot be delivered. We are starting the scheme with appropriate and responsible targets that are broadly consistent with those of other developed countries.
The government said on the per capita basis, the Australian target was comparable to the European Union's commitment last week to reduce their greenhouse emissions by at least 20% below 1990 levels by 2020. Australia plans to introduce a carbon market on July 1, 2010, when polluters will have to bid against each other for government permits to emit carbon. TITV Weekly.